The Nifty 50. 50mm lenses are often touted by photographers as essential. Couple reasons being, they are usually pretty cheap and the image quality that you get from that purchase price is often very good. A lot of times people try and compare them to like more expensive lenses, and that does not make sense to me anyway. You compare them to other items in their class, just like cars. So in my case, I have two 50mm lenses. The one on the left is the 50mm f1.4 breech lock mount FD lens. It was manufactured in 1977. It was $50 on eBay, and the $12 adapter ring brings it into a grand total of $62 for a 50mm lens, and it is fantastic. I love it. The one on the right is the Canon 50mm f1.8 STM lens, and that was $110. It replaced the previous generation version 2 1.8 lens from Canon, both of which use the same optical configuration. The only difference is the autofocus motor and the build quality. Both of those are superior to the second generation, and I think it's a very good lens. The only problem with these two lenses for me is I need adapters to get them to work on my Sony camera. Now, the one on the left, the manual lens, the problem with that is it's, like I said, a manual lens, so there's no autofocus. The one on the right, the autofocus isn't complete. You can't AF during video. You can't, even when you try, it's just contrast detect. There's no phase detect. And the phase detect for images is only limited to about 30 or so % of the screen. So anything outside of that, and it's not even going to focus. When it's in continuous autofocus, I can feel it jittering an awful lot. But other than that, the accuracy, the reliability, I haven't had any issues with it, and I wasn't really looking to upgrade from it until about a month or so ago. I heard that Sony was planning on releasing their own Nifty 50, and I was able to pre-order it. Meet Sony's 50mm f1.8 Nifty 50 for the Sony E-Mount cameras. It is a full frame lens. The other ones they offer with stabilizer or for crop censored cameras only. This is a completely full frame lens. It is light and it focuses during video. It focuses for images consistently or continuously, and it doesn't jitter like the Canon lens. The Canon lens is quieter overall, but you can feel it moving more than the Sony lens. Now, the only problem so far with the Sony lens is on my camera, the firmware version is version 2, and it is not supported with that firmware version. And I'm going to go into that in just a minute and explain what's going on with that. But if you want to watch the other video that I made about the second firmware update or version 2, then you can watch my video here, and I will go into the AF focusing for adapted lenses. But let's get into how the lens itself works with the camera body, or both lenses actually. I'm going to show you the Canon lens as well as the new Sony lens and how they work on my Sony A7II, both with firmware version 2, as well as I'm going to show you how to update your camera and how it works with version 3.10. So let's get into that. So the key with quite a few tests is to keep them as consistent as possible. And since I've been comparing my tests to each other as far as adapted lenses go and the Sony E-Mount lenses go, here I am once again in front of my test subject, which is a picture of me. Right now on my A7II, I have the Canon 1.8 STM with the ComLight adapter. This is what it does normally for the version 2.0 mount. it is pretty quick. It's a whole lot faster than it used to be before I updated it, considering it just used contrast detect. Now, as you can see, I have these little boxes here that indicate where in the frame the phase detection is going to occur. If I move it outside of that, so let's get my face here outside of those boxes, you can tell instantly that that box disappears. So it will only use what's in the box for the contrast. So in this case, the face is not going to be in focus. And in some cases that can be a problem. For the most part, it's not that big of a deal, but it's not that big of an area. But it focuses quickly and it focuses pretty accurately. This time I've gone ahead and I've thrown on the Sony lens, the new Sony lens, onto my A7II, and it's still on firmware version 2.0. This is what happens without updating it to version 3. First, it uses contrast only. There is no phase detect autofocus. And even when it does start to focus, it will not get a lock. It may get what it thinks is a lock, but there are times when it's out of focus. And it's not even in room situations either. It'll also do this outside in sunny daylight. So there is the problem that you have with version 2. Now we're going to go ahead and go over to the computer, and I'm going to show you where to go to download 3.1, how to install it, and then what happens to both of these lenses when you update the firmware. Okay, so now I'm going to show you the download pages and how to go about downloading them, where to go. All the links for the cameras in question will be in the description below, as will the link to this page if you want to go and get there yourself. So what you're going to do is you're going to go down to Cameras, A Interchangeable Lens, and you're going to click ILCE. And these ones that are in purple here are the ones that I've already opened, which are the links that I'm providing. So that kind of shows you where they're going to be in this list. Just click the one you want and then you'll move on to this next part here. So this is going to be the one for my camera, the Mark II, A7 Mark II. The only thing I'm going to say before we do this is the A7S II and the A7R II are going to be a little bit different. So I'm going to show you what I mean by that in a sec. And the A6300 already has this firmware installed, so it's not going to show up on the download page. So you're going to come down here and select your operating system, firmware, and then you're going to look for this right here. And this is going to be the release date for it as well. It will show you right here that phase detect autofocus is supported, and it only shows the 85 1.4, but it does work with the 50mm. I've already installed the new firmware version on my A6000 and it works. So there's the general, that's all you got to do. You just hit download, go through the agreements. Yeah, I'm going to agree to using your product, and then put it in your favorite download spot. All of that doesn't really matter. Moving back to the A7S II and the A7R II though, right here it only shows 2.1 and it doesn't actually say anywhere about the new lenses. Now I also noticed that it didn't talk about the phase detect, and when I did a little research I found this link on dpreview.com where they actually asked Sony to clarify it. And right here it's mentioned that the A7R2, or the A7R, A7S, and the A7S II, which don't have phase detect focus points, won't work with that, which makes sense. However, I don't know why it doesn't mention the lenses, so I don't know if it will work. The A7R2, the fact that I wanted to mention is it's actually 3.2. If you scroll down here a little bit, it does mention the lens down here and the phase detect, so it should work. It's just it added some things later. So that one is going to be different than the 3.1. Alright, so moving on to the actual camera side of things, the first thing you're going to want to do is put a fully charged battery in it. Now I've already done as much, so I'm not going to show you that, but you're going to want to go into your USB connection and make sure it's on mass storage. Right. And then you're going to go ahead and connect it. Alright, so once you get your camera set up, go ahead and locate the file that you downloaded for your camera and open it. Now when you actually download it from Sony, they have the camera model name in there and the firmware version. So just make sure you got the right thing, because it can be a big problem if you get the wrong one. So then just go ahead and open it up. Now depending on your computer setup, it may prompt you with a password to enter. I've already done that, so mine didn't this time, but it has in the past. So just follow the instructions here. These are the instructions that I just told you about to set your camera up. So if you've already done that, then you're good. Just hit next, so it will check the version on your camera. And then down here, it'll tell you what you have now and what it is you're trying to put onto the camera. So hit next again. Now this part is going to take a little while. On my A6000, it gave me the prompt to reset my camera manually. Here it didn't, so just expect that to be a part of the process for one of yours. It came up with a little box on the camera that said press OK to reset, so I did. It didn't actually delete my settings. I'm not exactly sure what it reset, because it didn't seem like it reset anything, but all the custom functions and all the settings that I had done were still there. So I can't guarantee that will happen to you, or even that you'll be asked to, but it's going to do something just to give you a heads up. Now this is going to take a while. I'll come back when it's done. Okay, so all in all, it took about 15 to 20 minutes for me to update my A7II. I just let it do its thing. I mean, that's kind of what you want to do anyway. Once it's done, it's going to do a quick little recovery like you saw and come up with the USB mode mass storage. All you have to do next is just hit finish, close all this, eject the file, or I don't know how it is on Windows, just close the program I guess, and unplug it. There we go. And then now we're going to go to the version, and it says 3.1.0. So we're back in front of myself with the Sony lens on the A7II, and it's got the new updated firmware version. The focusing is now on par with any other lens that you would have, like the Batis lenses or the 35 and 55 from Zeiss. But as you can see, it focuses perfectly fine. There's no hunting, there's no jittery, it just locks on. And also, you don't have the boxes on the side telling you where the limit is for your focus area. You can move it around, and it's got the entire screen just like any other Sony lens. So there you go. That is my kind of hands-on review of the Sony lens. It's more a compatibility review between it and the Sony cameras. I'll probably make some kind of a hands-on review later, just my impressions of how it works, the other limitations I may or may not find on it, because that's what I do. I don't need to show you the image quality because other people do that. I just want to show the functionality of the items that I talk about. So if you have any questions, I will always do my best to answer. Otherwise, thank you very much for watching.